Aloha! You are watching F5 Web Media On Demand. I'm Peter Silva, Technical Marketing Manager with F5, and it's the last day of the 2011 Interop Conference from Las Vegas. And we're here outside the NOC. Earlier this week, we visited with a couple of our NOC consultants. We have Ken Bocchino and Sam Richman, both with F5 Networks, managing the F5 Big IP application delivery controllers in the NOC. We got a nice tour, a whiteboard about the entire infrastructure and topology of the equipment and how we're handling traffic here at Interop. And I just thought it would be interesting to do a follow-up with them, maybe get some statistics and find out how everything went. So thanks for joining us, guys. Thank you. Sam, Ken, good to see you again. So, were there any blips, any explosions, anything bad happened? Did anything crash? So how did it all go in there?
It went really well. As you can see, it's still standing. No fires. Again, we delivered all the services that we talked about earlier without any actual interruptions. We saw some really great statistics and performance out of the actual network environment itself. Yep. Besides the shenanigans that went on in the NOC between just the guys in there, you know, we had a good time. We actually saw some really interesting stats on traffic performance. Wow. We saw, over the last 3 days, we saw about 170 million DNS lookups. That's roughly 36 gigabytes of actual traffic for just DNS alone. Wow. We talked earlier about the caching that we're doing for Interop.com, the web acceleration piece. We did about 26 gigabytes of offloading for all the presentation content on IPv4. We saw 38 gigabytes of IPv6 traffic that we were offloading. So a total of around 60 gigabytes of actual show traffic going to just get presentation materials that didn't actually see the light of day to the actual web server. Went directly to the web accelerator.
And so you were saying that you saw more IPv6 requests than IPv4 requests.
Yeah, because everyone's dual stack here, they prefer to go out IPv6, and because we have the IPv6 gateways set up for the Interop.com site, they were able to get service on IPv6 alone.
So now all these predictions over the last 10 years that IP4 is dead and IPv6 is coming, actually it finally has come true now at the 2011 Interop Conference, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of increasing in traffic over the last couple of years, and it's really becoming a reality. Yeah. So talking about NAT64 and IPv6, we did about 5 gigabytes of NAT64 translation. So that was a kind of private wireless network out here called Interop NAT64 that people were aware of, and people did jump on it and used it, and we saw a fair amount of traffic overall for IPv6. That was pure IPv6. They didn't have an IPv4 stack, and they relied on the F5 for NAT64 services.
Very interesting.
Some other really interesting stats. We were talking about the NetFlow and syslog spray. We did about 127 million syslog messages with peaks at 40,000 TPS. So we had some network vendors sending about 40,000 messages in a second. We were distributing that out to about 4 different vendors that were keeping track of all that. Yep. We did about 36 gigabytes of actual NetFlow data. That's all the information about the flows that were going on all the different switching traffic that went out to about 10 different vendors to keep track of in some of the booths. And if you were walking around, you might have seen those stats. That was all coming through the F5 to get distributed out. What was really interesting is that we saw on the first day, we saw about half of the devices on the actual network registered to Apple. So
a lot of Mac users out there.
A lot of Mac users. We fathom that's probably a lot of the iPhones trying to get off of the 3G network and onto some sort of wireless network. Right. So that was definitely a big stat. Really interesting to a lot of us.
So do you know with all these statistics and what occurred, what do they do with this data? Does the Interop NOC staff then take all this data and rifle through it to then plan for next year? I know we still have some data centers with our equipment in Denver and San Francisco, and the tour itself, the show itself, is going to go to other cities. So do they take this sort of data to then prepare for the next city that they drop in?
Well, certainly. I mean, the best way to determine how everything is going is what kind of stats are we getting. So we can get a real live view of how things went, and then we can use it to definitely improve and keep building up and going forward.
That's great stuff, man. All right, so amazing statistics, lots of traffic, lots of IP V6 addresses, lots of Macs here, and clearly lots of people coming through the big IP application delivery controllers here on the Interop backbone. So thanks again, here we go, we'll do it this way, for joining us, guys. For Sam and Ken, I'm Peter for F5 Networks. Thanks for watching.